Hi, you guys. My name is Emily. I felt a strong calling to hop on here and share some of my thoughts and experiences about the digestive disorder GERD. Now, I'm not like a YouTuber, this isn't what I normally do, so sorry if this whole video just gets slaughtered. When I was going through some of the worst symptoms of my entire life with GERD, I hopped on YouTube a lot and I was hoping that I could find just something to hold on to, some type of advice for me to follow so that I could better my life. Honestly, GERD is a super debilitating digestive disease. And if you have it, you know what I'm talking about. If you don't have GERD, basically what it is long-term exposure to stomach acid that is constantly rising, constant. And there are many different triggers for why people have GERD in the first place, but I had it for about a year, and I felt a huge calling for me to hop on here and just kind of share my story and my recovery. And some days I wouldn't even really consider myself recovered from it, but I have found the algorithm to live like a quality life without like the symptoms of GERD constantly dragging me down and just kind of like making it seem like it's a really hard thing to live with. And so I thought that I would just share what I do to aid in my symptoms and how I can go a couple of weeks, a few weeks, and not experience any of the symptoms of GERD, and then sometimes it'll come back, and usually it's because I was doing things I knew that I shouldn't. But basically a lot of the causes of GERD are obviously what you eat. If you're eating a lot of high processed foods, a lot of sugary foods, a lot of fiery foods, like things that are super spicy, things that are temperature really hot, things that are really, really cooked, things that are packed with toxic carcinogens. Like if you're not eating organic, you're not setting your body up for success to be able to support yourself, especially through a disease, but just through anything in general. So prior to this experience, I had never really gone to doctors. I had been relatively healthy. I'm young. I've never really experienced pain in my body on a level that was uncontrollable. Maybe when I was younger I broke my arm or something and that hurt, but it was you have a protocol and you heal from that and you move on. Where this just seemed like I was stuck. I was in a standstill and there wasn't anything I could do about it. There was no advice or help or magic fix-all pill or whatever. And so I finally forced myself to go see a doctor. And basically I walked in, I felt like a number. There wasn't really a whole lot of advice that they could give me. They just looked at me and they're like, oh, yep, you have GERD, that sucks. And I was like, okay, but it does suck, and what do I do about it? How do I heal myself, because I can't live like this forever. And basically they threw a prescription at me, and I did my research. I did what they told me to. I ate small portions, and I didn't lay down after eating, and I tried to start eating a little bit better, and I took my prescription pill that is supposed to suppress stomach acid and all this stuff. And really what ended up happening was, I didn't get any relief. I didn't get any relief at all, and I started just really diving down that rabbit hole of what can I do? This is not okay. And it turns out that the prescription that they gave me causes kidney failure long term. So I knew that this wasn't something that I could take forever and just feel okay. And honestly, it didn't even help. But and so it got to the point where I was out of work, and I was just not. I was out of work, and I was just not dysfunctional. Like I was depressed, and nobody really understood what was going on with me. And yeah, so a friend of mine ended up telling me about a naturopathic doctor. I had never really like looked into what a naturopathic doctor was. I had, prior to this, never really heard anyone talk about a naturopathic doctor. And I was so desperate that even though it sounded a little bit like woo woo, I was like, I'll try it. So I went to this naturopathic doctor, and basically they gave me like the whole rundown of what GERD is, and like what causes GERD, and they taught me about like my body and how the body works, and what not just people with GERD, but what everybody needs in order to support their body for optimal health. And you know, I went in there and they found all these problems with me that were separate from GERD, but they were at the exact same time what were causing my GERD symptoms. And so it was like the Western doctors had given me this prescription in order to like turn off that check engine light. And they were like, oh, you know, if you take this pill, it'll suppress your stomach acid and then you won't have an acid problem. And it's like, okay, but like, why do I have an acid problem in the first place? Like, what is causing the problem? And for me personally, the naturopathic doctor, they found that I had a lot of issues. I really did. I had, for starters, I had chronic anxiety. And like I couldn't not go to like a friend's house without having a panic attack in my car before like rolling into the driveway and having to like pep talk myself into the fact that like this is my friend, like why. Anyway, so having like really high stress levels causes like a really extreme like acidic problem. And you know, the naturopathic doctor too, he was like, what kind of relationships do you have in your life? Like, are you holding any grudges? Are there any toxic, you know, friends, toxic family members? Like, and I did, and, you know, it's normal for all of us to have those, especially when they're, like, your family or whatever, and then he started to break down, like, other things, like, what are you eating? Well, I was eating a standard Western diet, genetically modified food, non-organic, highly processed, just like tons of things that like your body doesn't recognize because it's not natural. And I got my allergy test back, which it turns out I'm allergic to like 32 different foods, and a lot of them I had been eating a lot. And acid reflux can be a symptom of an allergic reaction to what you put into your body. I got my hormones tested, and just because of the lack of care that I had been giving myself for years and years and years, because I was just living a normal standard Western life, my hormones were off the wall, unbalanced. My testosterone was way too high for a woman. My estrogen levels were really, really low. My progesterone levels were really, really, really low. And so I got onto a hormone protocol and started to work with my hormones again. And I ended up getting an MRA test and a blood test. And the MRA test is basically like an MRI, but instead of like the, you know, going into a machine and they do stuff on your brain, you basically hold onto this like magnetic wand, and all of this information pops up on their computer, like are all of your vitamins and minerals up to date, and how is your heart functioning, how's your kidney and your liver and your gallbladder and your urinary tract, and like all of this different stuff, how's it functioning. And it turned out a lot of it was normal, and a lot of it was also like really low or way too high. And so they gave me some protocol to work on with that as well. And with my blood test came back that I was having a hard time detoxifying, so I was carrying tons of toxins in my body, and I had high yeast, high candida, I had leaky gut, which leaky gut is a whole nother YouTube video, but if you're curious about that, you can look into that. It's pretty serious, honestly, and like most people have leaky gut and don't know it. And so basically what happened was they gave me this regimen of like, okay, so here's all of your problems, which you have a lot of them, let's see which ones are really important for us to focus on right now. And they gave me these protocols. I was taking supplements like all day long, every single day for months, and I didn't notice a difference for a while, to be honest with you. And then it was like one day I woke up and I was just like, whoa, like I have so much energy. Where did the anxiety go? My skin looks better. Like I feel healthy. I feel happy. I feel like I have this like pep in my step. And like even if the GERD was there, like I felt mentally capable of like handling it. And eventually I just kept taking them. They said, you know what, just because you feel better, you have to keep taking your supplements. And so they start adding in more. Okay, let's focus on this problem, let's focus on this, blah blah blah. And like oh my gosh, the supplements that I were taking were just incredible. But yeah, I started to notice a huge difference in my body. And so some of the supplements that I think that were really important that I were taking at the time that you can find over the counter at like a natural grocery store, I would write this down. It's called Candida. So that is going to flush your system of yeast buildup in your body that causes a lot of toxicity. Betaine hydrochloric acid saved my life. So when people get acid reflux, a lot of times they start taking like omeprazole or Tums or any of those other like antacid kind of over-the-counter supplements, but those only help to a certain extent and they cause a lot of other problems in themselves. But betaine hydrochloric acid is an actual enzyme that is found in your digestive tract. And so when you eat an apple or anything, when you put anything into your body, your stomach secretes a lot of fluids and a lot of enzymes in order to break down that food. And the lack of the enzyme betaine hydrochloric acid often causes a lot of like digestive problems. And so it comes in a little pill form. Pop it with every meal, and basically that enzyme goes in and it helps break down all your food. It neutralizes acid. It does a lot. Charcoal is extremely helpful with all things digestive, and it's very, very detoxifying, but it's gently and effectively detoxifying. One thing that's really important to understand about GERD is that your body is way too acidic. And obviously, it's showing its symptoms in physical forms. But what my naturopathic doctor taught me was that in order to bring those acidic levels down, you should not be consuming foods that cause like high acid levels in you. So you want to be taking more foods in that are like extremely alkalizing, like raw foods. Lemons and limes, even though they are technically acidic fruits, when consumed, the acid turns into like an alkalizing agent. I remember someone telling me to take apple cider vinegar. If you have GERD really bad, I would not do that. Just because in some people it might help, but basically you're putting fire on fire. And another thing too that I heard is peppermint tea. Peppermint tea is really cooling. And so this is a burning sensation, so it would make sense that it would cool it down. But peppermint is also like a really, really, really strong herb. And you're trying to put more gentle things into your body, things that are going to be a little bit more like calming, like chamomile or like bay leaf or clover or red raspberry leaf, things that are going to be a little bit more like gentle on the system. Largely, GERD is a lifestyle thing. It's not a death sentence, obviously, but it can feel like when it gets really bad. But I think it's important to take like your consumption into consideration. What are the foods that you're eating? Who are the people that you're hanging out with? Is your job a high stress environment? Do you have a good relationship with your coworkers? Portion control is important. Personally, I am a gorger, so when I get really, really hungry, I eat a lot, a lot, a lot. And then afterwards, I feel like crap. But, like, I love food. I love, you know, I love eating when I'm hungry. And another thing that's really important to note, too, is chewing your food, making, like, that conscious, relationship with your food. Like, yeah, you're hungry, and you're trying to, like, nourish your body as quickly as possible, so you inhale it, but like with every bite really chew it and make sure that like digestion begins right here and your stomach is supposed to break the rest down. And so chew your food, eat as organic and raw as possible. Sugars are a biotoxin. Try to cut your sugar intake down a bit, limit your sugar intakes. I noticed that with all of my health problems that sugar caused a lot of like lymphatic buildup, and it made me really tired. I noticed that it slowed the progression of my hormone healing down, and just like tons of other things. Herbs are medicine. That is all I have to say. Actually, through this situation in my life of like experiencing extreme debilitating digestive disease, I found myself diving down the rabbit hole of like health and wellness, and you know what, like when you start experiencing herbal medicine work and you're a sick person, it changes your entire perspective on medicine. And now I drink like 2 or 3 cups of tea a day, and like I do tons and tons of research on like what herbs affect the body in certain ways. And so like if I'm like I know my triggers. When I start feeling things, I'm like, oh, this is the herb I need, and I go and I grab it, and I like use that herb consistently for like a while. Also, another thing that I thought I would share too is in the beginning of my GERD experience, I heard a lot of good things about going vegan, and so I tried it, and it actually helped a lot. And I will say, going vegan was not a long-term decision for me, just because like I think that there are essential vitamins and nutrients and like nutrition that are involved in the partaking of animal products when they're sustainably sourced and they come from like ethical, backgrounds, like how they're farmed and stuff. But yeah, meat is extremely acidifying, unfortunately. Even though it is good for you in some ways, it is also extremely acidifying. And for a body that is already too acidic and needs more alkalizing things, cutting out meat and dairy for a while might be a good idea for you. And then when you start to notice that you're feeling a little bit better, start incorporating those things back in, in small quantities. Notice how you feel, and as you start to normalize yourself out a little bit more, you can kind of start to bring back in those those normal portions of what you would be consuming on a regular basis. Unfortunately, I think that exercise was a huge issue for me while I was experiencing GERD at its worst. I would notice if I would go for a run or a bike ride or just do anything a little bit too excessively exercise-wise, that my GERD symptoms would get really unbearable. So I suggest for people, on both spectrums, you never work out at all or you work out way too much, I suggest just find that happy medium, light exercise, going for gentle walks, doing your yoga, going swimming. Going out into nature helps a lot too, because GERD can a lot of times be mental, and just going out and finding that thing that just like really brings you back down to your zen, brings you back down to your center, and helps you see the world through a different lens. And nature can really be a huge teacher for us on so many different levels. Like, I don't know, everyone has their own experience with it, but for me, I find that I get a lot of my inspiration and my healing from nature. Sunlight is a huge one too. I find, like right now, you can see some sunlight coming through the window. That's really nice right now, but it is winter here. We don't really get sunlight a lot, and I find that it does affect my mental health. I have to find other things to help support me through that, and when my mental health isn't at its finest point, I find that my GERD definitely can come on and off a little bit more often. Healthy relationships and boundaries. Be very, very conscious of your medication that you put into your body. Even ibuprofen, can be really, really helpful when you are experiencing a lot of pain. But for someone who has a digestive disorder, ibuprofen can actually tip you a little bit further over the edge, and it is not really great for your digestive system. But when needed, I think it is important to take those things and note that, if you are experiencing some pain in your body, you shouldn't not take those things just because it's, One thing that's really important for people who are experiencing a lot of imbalances in their body is to really lean into the rest and recovery. I find myself being like a go, 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 go mode person, and I get really guilty when I am sitting around, not getting things done. And it's still to this day really hard for me to be like, oh, it's my day off, I can do nothing. It's like, oh, it's my day off, I have to do everything today. And so, but I do find when I lean into that rest and recovery mode, I come out of it feeling so good. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I needed this. Well, if you are watching this video to try to find some relief for your GERD symptoms, I hope that this helps. If there was any questions that you had, just leave them in the comments below, and I'll do my best to try to get to them and maybe give some advice on things that helped me, or maybe just be a shoulder to lean on, because it can be hard to find people in this community who are going through the same thing that you're going through. But I am wishing you the best, and I am hoping for a long and happy, healed life for you.